Captain Caveman!
Hey! Alright guys, today I'm teaching the lessons, so me and I guess the student today will be seeing how hard each other's rolls are. Today we're going to have a 3-part lesson. Part 1 is going to be about setting up kicks. Part 2 is going to be about returning when you get kicked. And Part 3 is going to be a surprise.
I like surprises. And speaking of surprises, it's time for the company show. So I want you guys to click that button right there that says subscribe. Do it now! And after you do it, make sure you click the bell so you get notifications so you watch our stuff. And if you don't, Forrest's going to beat me up.
So for the first part of setting up kicks, we're going to work on our cross and turning our cross into a chamber so we can kind of hide our kick. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit, it's just going to be a normal 1-2. Hit 1, 2. I mean, it'd be nice if you could get in your fighting stance.
Oh, you didn't say that, sir.
Alright, so we're going to start off with a normal 1-2. But when you hit that 2, you're going to turn that cross into a chamber. So when you cross, you're just going to stick your hand out and chamber like you normally would.
So you want me to throw the kick after the 2, you're saying, too?
Yes.
So you're talking about chamber and hit. Got it, sir. 1, 2, wait. Oh, leg kick. Leg kick or body kick?
Leg kick.
Yes, sir. 1, 2, wait.
Alright, so that's one way to set up your kick. I find it a nice way to set up my kick because I can enter in with a 1-2, and then usually your opponent will be looking at your shoulders and your hips, but if they're looking at your shoulders first when you throw this cross, they won't be expecting you to just chamber. So if your opponent's good and they're looking down your center line and paying attention to your shoulders, this should be a good way to hide it. So what you can do at home is just drill this for a minute or two maybe, just do a couple reps, kind of get used to it, and then we'll move on to what's next.
And like always, I should have my other hand home, correct?
Yeah. Alright. So you can go for a little longer than that if you want. If you're a parent and you want to get it in, then you guys can switch. Just make sure you're not blowing up your kid, since in a lot of cases you're probably going to be bigger than them, so just be careful.
Or sign a waiver.
Alright, so the second part of setting up kicks is going to be a little more complicated. So I'm going to show it without my student for now. So this one has to do with a hook into the kick. Usually that's a pretty decent way to set it up. But when we kick, we don't want to get hit. And we don't want our kick to be interrupted by a straight. We don't want somebody to like Superman punch us while we're trying to kick them. So this time when we hook, we're going to step out with our hook. So all you're doing is you're using your lead leg to pivot, and you're just going to bring this leg back and you're going to turn 90 degrees. By doing this, if my opponent is going to throw a jab or a cross, they can't hit me. And we'll go over that in a second when we get back to it with the student. But for now, I'm just going to show it. So you're going to step out with your hook and then throw a body kick. This also sets up a really nice body kick because you can slice your kick right across their stomach. So now I'll show it with a partner. So for this, make sure at first you go slow, especially if you're new to this concept, because you probably hurt somebody pretty bad if you're going at like training speed and your opponent's not ready yet. So let your holder get used to it. I think that's a really important part of holding and hitting, making sure your hitter's ready, making sure the person hitting is ready, and making sure the person that's holding is ready. Make sure that people won't get hurt because of stupid accidents like a holder not being ready. And
like someone kicking you in the groin.
Alright, so for this drill...
Left punch, right kick, correct, sir?
Yeah. Ash! So you got it. You have to stop. So when you do the step out, you wouldn't just hook and step out because, you know, that you want to make it into more of a fluid single step.
Gotcha.
So when you hook, you want to turn with your hook.
So,
and then cross my back. Yeah. So as you can see, that knocked me back a little bit. It's a good setup for your kick. So once again, we can drill this a couple times. If you're a parent and you want to get a couple in, then just switch with your kid. Again, make sure you're not blowing them up. So there you might have saw me stepping back a little bit. If your partner, whether it be the kid not being able to handle it or the parent not being able to handle the kid, you can step back. It'll alleviate some of, like, I don't know if it's just placebo, but for me, it definitely helps alleviate some of the pain when somebody's kicking you really hard.
The other thing that I like to do when I'm holding pads is like hit the pads down. If you notice, Forrest was doing that as well. But if you push the pads down as the impact comes, you just don't like take the whole thing. Forrest did a really good job taking impact and stepping back.
Right, but he's of course right. But what I wanted to say by saying that they're stepping back is this is not a head kick. If you're actually ever gonna hit this, when you hook, you wanna aim for the stomach here, because you're perfectly set up to just slice through your opponent's body like you're chopping wood with an axe. It's a really nice setup for the kick, and if you do it fast enough, then your opponent's gonna be pretty sorry.
I like to hit stuff.
So now we're moving into the second part of our lesson, which is more about returning. If you're ever in a fight, you're probably not going to be the only one kicking, especially if you're in a fight with somebody who's of equal skill level, or at least knows some kind of Muay Thai or kickboxing, or even if they're better than you.
Okay.
Yeah?
I kicked a guy one time and the fight was over.
I saw that. It was quick. Kicks are powerful.
Sometimes you only have to throw one kick.
So you, of course, don't want to just stand there and check kicks, especially not if somebody's like got really big legs or a really good kicker, not a really good kicker, but somebody who's really good at kicking you really hard, not kicking a ball really hard. But if somebody's really good at kicking a person really hard, then you probably don't want to eat a lot of their kicks. So to prevent somebody from kicking you, of course, you're going to return, and just returning in general is a good behavior to get into if you're interested in fighting, because if you just freeze up and take hits, you're going to lose the fight, whether it be by you going down or by a ref's decision. By returning, you make sure that you're not just standing there. You can't think too hard about things. When somebody hits you, you got to return. It's just like if a bully walked up to you in school, or if some rude man or woman walked up to you in the street and hit you, you're not just going to stand there. You're going to go back and hit them. So it's the same concept here. What we're first going to do is we're just going to check and leg kick. We did checks before, so if you don't know how to check, you can go back to that video.
Should I put shin pads on, sir?
Yeah, for the drill.
Yes, sir.
So let's just check leg kick, and then, so just drill check leg kick real quick. If you don't know how to check, go back to the video where we did do checks. I think that was like 2 or 3 classes ago.
We'll tag it in there.
Yeah, so
click on a little eye if you need to see it.
If you didn't watch that video, check is pretty simple. You just bring your elbow to your knee and you put your shin out. So instead of somebody kicking your thigh or kicking your calf, when you check, they'll hit your shin. It hurts, but it's better than them kicking something soft and it hurting you. And it also hurt them, especially if you got shins like my student here, which are as hard as a rock. So for this drill, it's pretty simple. I'm gonna throw my rear leg kick. He's gonna check, and then he's gonna return with his rear leg kick. All right, so.
Oh, body or leg? Leg kick. Sorry.
Alright, so we're just doing a little bit of drilling just for the sake of showing you, to drill. if you're doing this lesson, then you're probably going to want to drill for a little bit longer. Drilling is really good for building up cardio, and also, it's good for learning the move. So if you're not as familiar with this, then work on it longer, and just in general, do a little bit longer than us. We're filming and drilling, so drilling for a little bit less time helps us, get in and out quicker, get these videos out quicker. So,
spoken like a true YouTuber.
So when you're training, make sure you drill a lot. Drilling is important. But let me get back to the lesson real quick. So the reason for me doing something similar to what we've done before and going back to somewhat of a basic concept in some people's eyes is we're going to add something to it. So if you're ever fighting somebody, especially in a real competitive kickboxing fight, there's going to be a lot of kicks thrown. So you're going to be checking a lot of kicks and throwing this back. But you don't want to throw this back all the time, because then you guys are just going to both be checking kicks. If you really want to hit your opponent and they start getting lazy and just checking like this and not checking real well, then it's a perfect time to mix it up. So what we're going to do is, for this part of returning the kick, we're going to check, and then we're going to feint a low kick, keep your leg out, and then turn it into a body kick. It's kind of tough to describe the motion you should be making. So if I have my student here real quick, just cover up your side so I don't...
You can hit.
Alright. So the motion is just, you're feinting the low kick and then you're going up high. So basically, you're feinting a low kick. You got to make it look good though. So you got to make sure this looks like it's an incoming leg kick. You can even touch him maybe, because that'll bring up his guard especially. So it's just a feint. So then you probably back your leg back out and then turn it into a body kick. If you're a bit shorter than your partner or shorter than your opponent, this might not work great for you. As you might have saw I hit his knee.
If you're Harper, Dad, get down on your knees.
Yeah, so if you're a parent, then you can obviously...
Same thing with Noah's mom. If you're Noah's mom, get down on your knees. If there's a huge height disparity, you might have to get down on your knees and just take the kick.
I'm a few inches shorter than my partner here, so you may have saw I hit his knee. But in most scenarios, you're probably going to be a little bit closer in height, so you should be able to get over the knee. And if you're flexible, unlike me, then it should be easier to hit as well. If you're super flexible and you've got really good balance, you can also turn this into a head kick. But I can't show that because I don't have great balance and I'm also not that flexible. But you can try it. Just don't kick your parent in the head. Maybe do it without a partner a couple times, because getting kicked in the head, not great, even when you block it. So
you end up like me instead of like him.
So yeah.
Not even one stumble in these words. He's so smart.
Yeah. So if we go to drill this right now, in this drill, it's not a great simulation because you're gonna know that the body kick's coming, but we're just drilling this. So if you're a bit of a smart butt and you're thinking, well, it's not gonna work if they're expecting the body kick. It's just for drilling purposes. Nobody really wants to get hit in the body over and over again. So that's why you would hold at the body instead of going from leg to body, because it's inefficient for training and nobody wants to get hit in the body. So what I'm going to do is throw a kick, he's going to check, and then he's going to do the feint. Try it again. So what he did there is he kicked, he brought it down, and then he kicked again.
I'll keep it up. Yes, sir.
So
the question mark kick.
Yeah. So it is called a question mark kick, like my partner said. But when you do this, don't kick like that. That'll also work. But the whole point of this drill is not to have a double kick. It's one kick. So keep your leg out there.
Sir.
So if your opponent is starting to fall down or it doesn't look so great, you can always suggest for them to stretch, or if they ask you to stretch, then just give them a minute. Stretching is really important, one, for your health, and two, to get moves like this right, where you need some flexibility. Most people don't stretch enough. I don't stretch enough, so I kind of sound like a hypocrite here. But I would rather be a hypocrite and help more people stop more people from getting injured than trying to avoid being a hypocrite and then have more people in. A real quick reminder, I already said this, but it's very important. When you're drilling, drill for longer than this, please. I would really like for people to get these moves. They're a little more difficult, so you might need to do a little extra drilling. So please drill more than we do. Our short drills are just for getting in and out of here, without being here for an hour and a half. All right, so it's time for our surprise. You don't have to do this one with a partner, especially if you're worried you're gonna hurt your partner. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do the spinning back kick. It's one of my favorite techniques. It's not very practical, but it is fun to do. It's just a cool, fun thing I thought I'd throw at the end of the lesson. Don't use this close up. It's gonna get you knocked out if you're not careful with it. So please don't actually use this unless you're far away in a actual sparring or kickboxing situation. This is just a fun little thing. So for the spinning back kick, you might want some room so you don't hit anybody or anything. Your parents will be very mad if you break the TV or a light or...
Don't put your foot through the wall. As a dad, I don't want any feet in the wall. I'm not coming to plaster your house.
Yeah.
And Aurora, I'm not plastering your house. Also,
if you're scared of mice, I heard a lot of stories about some rodents living in walls. So don't put your foot through the wall. You might get rabies or something. Alright, so now that I have a little more room, we're just going to go over the motion. It's a bit tricky to describe, so if you have to, go back, watch this a couple times. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to be in our fighting stance, hands up, all that jazz, so you don't get knocked out. The spinning back kick, I'm just going to show it to you first. So there are a couple key points. Keep your balance. If you're really good at balancing, then you're probably going to look better than me. I'm not master at this kick. It's just fun to do. It's a cool warm-up as well. So don't go after me for looking bad. If I just describe it real quick, what you're going to do is you're going to do that motion, and what you're going to use as your pivot foot is this foot. You should be on your toes. I have flat feet, and I also haven't done anything in a while, so I'm not very good. But again, me sounding like a hypocrite is better than you doing it wrong. So you use your lead foot to pivot. This is what you're going to use to turn all the way around. If you don't turn this foot, you're probably going to break your ankle. Your body probably won't let you do that though, so don't be too afraid. When you spin and I'm here, I'm looking over my shoulder, or at least I should be. But I'm looking over my shoulder to find my target. If my target is the camera now, I know where it is, so I don't miss. You're probably still going to miss because this is very easy to read. If you don't know what reading is, it's being able to know what your opponent's going to do. But if you're hitting the bag or something and there's a concrete wall behind you, not kicking the concrete wall is nice. So make sure you know where your opponent is. So look over your shoulder and then kick. So once again, the motion is this. Also, don't just be lazy and do that and do this. If you're not good at, if you're orthodox and you end up in southpaw, you're going to end up at a disadvantageous position. If you've done Muay Thai before, then you're probably going to be able to get in your stance real quick and maybe find a moment to switch. But this is especially important if you're in a kickboxing or sparring situation. It's going to be, if your opponent's coming at you, it's going to be tough to find a moment to switch. And most people aren't comfortable in the opposite stance. So make sure you're getting your foot all the way back. That was not a kick, but when you spin, make sure you're getting your foot all the way back. You're back in your stance and you're ready to go. Another thing that you don't want to do is spin and then step back like that. You're going to get clobbered in the back of the head probably either on accident, or if you're on the street, you're going to get clobbered in the back of the head. And if they have a weapon, it's going to be a bad day for you. When you're watching this, make sure you're not watching the lazy ones. When I do these lazy things, it was just for me to show, get back into your stance. That is not how you throw the kick. When you throw this kick, you want to be it more like a teep, but a backwards teep and a spinning teep. So when you throw this, make sure you're getting your leg up and pushing like that. Not like this. Do it right. Don't do it like me and be lazy. Don't be lazy. is very important, especially in fighting. If you're lazy and your hands are down, you're going to get hit. If you're lazy and you throw this kick bad, you're going to get hit, and it's going to be a bad day for you. So before we get into the outro, this might take a couple takes, but before we get into the outro, I want to do one good spinning back kick that's as good as I can do it, so you don't do bad things like I do because I'm lazy and not very disciplined. You still don't really need a partner, but if your parent is tough or your kid is tough and you're not going to blow them up if you're a parent hitting a kid, then you can have a partner. Oh, also, if you do have a partner, you can put your gloves like this or your pads like this, or maybe just hold a pillow here so you don't...
Double pillow work good. We learned all about that in an earlier video.
So you don't take the impact, because it's not a fun kick. Alright, so... Oh! I need to get up on my toes.
Oh!
Sorry, you okay?
That was a good one. I like it.
Alright, so again, before we get into the outro...
chicken wings up, alright.
Also, one more thing before we get into the outro. I stumbled a little bit. I kept stumbling a little bit when I was getting back into my stance. If you do that, it's not ideal, but if you're still learning the kick, or you've been off for a little while, or you have trouble getting up on this foot, then it's okay. But still, use this very sparingly in a sparring or kickboxing situation.
Loose. Right!
I hope you liked this video. I try to put together somewhat of a lesson I try to teach. I really enjoyed teaching this lesson. I think it's a good test of my ability to think on my feet and publicly speak. So if you enjoyed this video, then leave a like. It helps us out. And it also means something to me.
Subscribe, do it now!
Right. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And again, don't forget to hit the notification bell. And it'll make sure these videos show up on your phone so you don't have to go into the YouTube app, go to your inbox and find it. The notifications, you can just click on it, open your phone, and you'll be right into YouTube.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate the lesson. You did a really, really good job. And I think the fans are going to like it. Before we get out of here, remember, donations of Rockstar are always accepted. Thank you very much for your time.